Well, hello. Happy St. Patrick's Day to you. To those of you in Ireland, you know Patrick. And to those of you anywhere else, happy St. Paddy's Days to you as well. I hope wherever you are, the day is green because blood equals green. We got blood in the main event of AEW, and we have a lot of hype for NXT TakeOver on Wednesday night. Man, Wednesday nights are just great for wrestling right now. Hey, if you guys are with us, go ahead and share the link if you're with us live. So much to talk about. It seems like we have a great idea of where things are going for NXT TakeOver the week of WrestleMania this week. A real leap-off point for AEW following Dynamite. This feels like much more of a fallout show than last week's show in many different ways. We had a lot of blood, a historic main event. If you are with us following both shows, sound off on either one. We'll cover AEW first. We'll cover NXT after that. I got to talk to the fellas here. John Clark, how you doing? Your WrestleMania tickets are finally on sale. How are you feeling?
They're not on sale yet. Tomorrow morning,
they're going to be on sale. They're going to be on sale Friday. All right, so you at least know when they're coming.
Well, for me, they're going to be on sale tomorrow at 10, and I don't.
Oh, you're on the pre-sale, aren't you?
If you talk to me like exactly 12 hours from now, I'll tell you how I feel then, because I'll know at that point if I'm in or if I got to wait until Friday morning and try again. I got 2 tries at this. Can't mess up.
Love that. If you guys are, I know the faithful, I see some of the names in there. I see those names. Thank you guys so much. Go ahead and share the link, especially in Facebook groups. Seems like people love it here in Facebook groups. We have those initial reactions. Kyle Duff, I've seen him there. K-Duff has been there before. He says, that may have been the best main event in the history of Dynamite. I wanted to see the women's division get pushed and more. Boy, did they deliver. Yeah, that was a really, really strong main event. Dominic, how you feeling? We'll get more in detail with Dom. Hell of a main event from Thunder Rosa. I have to say it with my Irish brogue. Thunder Rosa. She may be Mexican-American, but she was wearing the green and gold. She was wearing the green and gold on St. Patrick's Day for the St. Paddy's Day Slam. She took on Britt Baker. They bled buckets. Hell of a main event, right, Dom?
Oh, my gosh. Unbelievable. I think the match of 2021 so far. I just tweeted that out right before. Yeah, I'm going that far with it. It was that good. And, they went all out and hard hitting. And it was over a feud that's been going on for months on end, so it made perfect sense. And the ending was just very well played and well done. They teased a lot that made you think that Rosa was not maybe going to win, and she ended up pulling it out at the end. So I loved it. I loved what they did. Both will put on an amazing performances. So, yeah, my match of 2021 so far. Calling it right now.
I love that someone who's named Walter takes advantage of this moment just to say that they've been missed. Just to say that they've been missed. Walter Bilecki says, oh, you missed Walter on NXT? Were you referencing me? I'm Walter. Thanks for missing me so much. Yes, Walter, excuse me. I know John Clark is our NXT focused person, but Walter was missed. And it was quite a surprise to see him return tonight, huh? How about that, John? That is a big addition to the mix for NXT on the United States side, right?
Yeah, we'll see how permanent it is. We've obviously heard him mention before he didn't want to permanently live in the United States, which is why he was only really appearing every couple weeks. We'll see. I'm guessing he'll have a takeover match since it's a pretty big takeover. Although
he has to have a takeover match.
I don't want fans to get carried away right now anyway, thinking that this is permanent. I don't think it is, but it's very nice to see him back because I think it's much needed for Imperium.
If he's like Dom, if he's here now, and you have all the pandemic rules and the quarantining, he's at least been sent over to the United States to do something WrestleMania week. He is the big European export. He is the big superstar. Don't worry, guys. We'll get into Dynamite here in our first full reviews. I want to know, by the way, if you're watching here in the first few minutes, let us know what you think of either show. AEW Dynamite, if you watch, give us your 1 to 10. NXT. Give us your 1 to 10. Both shows were absolutely fantastic. I caught a lot of both. I thought these were really, really strong shows, and I want to know what you think as well. I'm getting a little bit of feedback here.
Yeah, that was my end. Sorry about that. I don't know what happened.
That's okay. No, it's all right. It happens. It happens, buddy. This is StreamYard, our new streaming service, which I think is pretty better. And go ahead and sound off on either show. Whatever show you watch, give us your rating. We'll give you the honor system here. But the honor system is truly, I can see how many of you are watching. That's not how many people are sharing. So if you're watching, share the show. And if you haven't done, I can't watch the whole thing, go ahead and download it. Thank you to the thousands of you. Dom, putting up the numbers with WCW Rewritten, putting up the numbers with 2 Dynamite dudes with attitudes. The interviews dropping this week as well. We have Renee Paquette dropping tomorrow as well. We just dropped a really good interview today with Britt Baker, who was just in the main event with Dynamite. So 8,000 people around the world consumed our show individually that I know of. That number is going to go up as I get kind of like a delayed reaction. So thank you to everyone who consumed the show around the world. I really appreciate that. Thank you so much. And some people are giving us an 8 out of 10 for Dynamite. Both shows were great, says Herman Takar. German Herman Suplex Takar says both shows were great. Both women's but the women's event got a 10 out of 10. Loves this women's event. John, this was something else. I know you were covering NXT, but this was something really, really special. This is the first time AEW's gone full tilt with a AEW women's main event. Dom, tell me about this. We'll start at the top. This has been building for a long, long time. Britt Baker versus Thunder Rosa. A lot of bad blood between these two, and they also spilt a bunch of blood in this match.
Yeah, I think that really, really added to the match too, because they were duking it out, like starting off brawling, like on the stage, and then it went to ringside, then it went over the barricade. Then Britt, there was a spot where Britt like stomped Rosa's face right off the steel steps, and that's when she started bleeding. We go to commercial break. We come back. Rosa shotgun drop kicks a ladder into Britt's face, and she's bleeding like crazy. So
yeah,
really furthered up the heightened the stakes. And then Rebel.
I thought it was a solid match. Like I thought, like this is a solid match. But John, I know your follow is just, hey, what happened with it? You see social media, and John will be like, oh, sometimes John and I are talking on the show, like, oh, this was cool or that was cool, and it's just what he catches, right? He's all focused on NXT, and I appreciate that, John. But Dom, I'm talking to you, and we're in the group thread, and then it's like, oh, this and that, and wow, like once Britt started bleeding, I think she definitely was bleeding a lot more than Thunder Rosa was.
Oh yeah.
I don't know what blade she got a hold of, but she did the business, and this amped it up. This is blood equals green on St. Patrick's Day. I tweeted it out on the WrestleZone account. That is absolutely the way I felt about it. James Espanto Fernando Hawaii. I threw an Irish brogue on the end of it for you, James. Their match alone was a solid 10. This was something special. This felt like a pay-per-view match on television. Yeah,
and the hype for it too, going into throughout the week here, was really, really cool. Even like the little Twitter graphic that they did was awesome with the lights flashing and flickering and stuff. It was very well set up and really put you in that moment. I was like, this is going to be a big match. And then the hype that they, like some of the talent, whether it was, I think, JR or some other people, really put this match over before it even aired. And so the expectations are pretty high, and it delivered.
Mm-hmm. Now, where do you go from here? I mean, this is certainly something they needed, I think, on television, because, this is something, John, you and I have been talking about it for a long time, and you follow everything, and you see the Wednesday Night Wars, and Dom, you follow it as well. The point has always been, AEW has the new flair, the new hook, and that is probably a big reason why maybe they get new viewers on Wednesdays. Maybe some people who follow wrestling are like, you know what, on Wednesdays, I'll choose the non-WWE show, which is absolutely fine. Fans can choose whatever you want, whatever you feel is entertaining you, watch it, enjoy it, right? But there is this sentiment, and you know this too, that, well, NXT has a better women's division. And there has always been this hook that NXT has a better women's division. But this is really the first time where you could say, wow, AEW had something special with the women, and we knew it was coming. And John, maybe even you knew this was coming. This is something special, John. Like, this is something brutal, even on the edge. Like, maybe you'll follow this up on the weekend. How do you see this on the other side, John? You are the NXT loyalist. I want to know your take. I'm doing the Fox News thing. I'm putting you in the spot.
It's kind of frustrating because I don't want to sound like a huge negative Nancy or like I'm extremely biased. But
no, you don't want to be the guy who's like, oh, let me piss on your Cheerios.
In the overall scope of things,
Look, you made Dom walk off camera.
I just want to shut my door.
No, Dom's got to stop his door from his disruptive cat, Dusty.
In the overall scope of things, I don't think this changes anything. I still think NXT obviously has the stronger women's division. Just because we got one good match tonight, which is probably possibly the best women's match of 2021
I wouldn't say one
so
good.
far.
This is one great.
Well, sure, great, whatever you want to say. What I'm saying is, yes, it was good, but I don't think that this shifted like things from here to here because of one match. I think maybe they're working their way to being on par, but I don't think at this point we can say, they've evened the odds or anything like that,
But like, Dom, how good is this just in general for NXT and AEW in general, in terms of that general competitive vibe where it's week in week they go back and forth? I'm not talking ratings. I'm talking in terms of fan conversation. The fan conversation, this, Dom, the most feverish fan conversation, the most debated, the most ferocious, I love this person and I want them to do well vibe is with the female contingent. It truly is. And you see it on Facebook. And this is no shot at the fellas. If you have a female favorite wrestler, there's just a different dedication that you see people espouse on the internet. And I can see that coming out this next week where, my faves delivered this week.
Yeah. I mean, even if you're coming from either perspective of it, whether it's AEW or NXT, like, there is that base that wants to see the women's division thrive, whether it's, on either program. And I am with John that they have a deeper women's division in NXT, and like throughout the weeks and stuff, I think that they've really AEW's really defined their women's division. But it's kind of hit like a little bit of a hiccup these past few weeks beforehand because of the finish of the tournament and all that kind of thing. I think everybody's been
They needed this because the tournament was a letdown.
It's
in terms of like general sentiment, that, Dom.
Yeah,
like, the tournament was supposed to be this big thing to crown a new women's champion, and it felt like a letdown. But I almost feel like they saved a lot of space for this match in terms of just fan consumption. Fans wanted something special. I almost feel like this is making up for that difference in space of what you didn't get from the fan tournament. For the women's eliminator tournament, which was supposed to be a big deal, and it was fine. It just wasn't great. This is now 2 tournaments in. We did a women's tag tournament. You did a women's singles title number 1 contender tournament, and neither one of them were this big, like, elevating thing. You have the heels program. They have a community of fans that want their women's division to hit. But this is the first time that women's division, like, John, you can agree with this, really hit out of the park, where it really felt like, God damn, you guys got a home run here. And I didn't feel that until tonight. I'm not saying that I've been to AEW shows before, but this is the first time where I absolutely ever felt that the women hold the main event, carry the main event, and deliver on the main event better than anyone else could on the card. And it makes you think, well, what else are you doing with the rest of the card? In a good way. I don't mean that in a bad way. Dom, carry up. Yeah,
no, I think they really set the bar here for matches. And like, I was, which match was it? I think it was Serena Deeb and Rio that had a match that was really, really good a few weeks. It was
strong. And you had a hinting that, like, oh, wow, they're going to go in a little bit more.
There's some momentum here going. There's some momentum. But yeah, I think this put them right back on the right path of like how they want to define their women's division. And putting Thunder Rosa up top and having her get the win, I think was really needed because the match was so intense in itself that Britt could lose the match and still look credible. And I think her like donning the crimson mask and all that really heightened her level as a star too. So I thought they played it off very, very well tonight with both of them, and it was booked properly.
Well, Tom, I've given thumbs up to some things. It's time to give thumbs down to some other things.
Big Dave.
There were some thumbs down I know that you had tonight. What didn't meet your expectations on tonight's AEW Dynamite?
Let's see. Trying to think. Nothing really hit me too hard like that. I thought was like kind of cringe or anything like that.
Mm-hmm.
If I had to maybe say something, I'm trying to think what really like stuck out. Nothing really. Honestly, Kev, nothing was really that like.
I have a couple. And I'm a little bit more critical than you are.
So yeah, you're a little bit more critical than I am, but nothing.
I thought this opener with Cody Rhodes was a little bit less than. We had Pentel Zero Mato versus Cody, and this is designed to be quite the match. I think they may have had a commercial break within this, but I thought this was a fine. It was a solid match, right? But you were red hot. I think with them, and you've seen this a little bit sometimes, John, as well, where WWE will create a match, and the next week you just want to see the match, right? And when it starts off so hot, the expectations can be so high, right, John?
Yeah, of course. I think we've, and if it delivers, it's good. But if it doesn't deliver, then it's like, whoa. No.
Yeah. and it isn't almost like this didn't deliver, because this felt like definitely when it started going, the near falls were as close as you were going to get with it. But they ended up giving Cody the clean pin here. And it was almost like, I know everyone doesn't like a dusty finish, but maybe Cody Rhodes' kid could use a dusty finish in this regard to get us to build to something, because it was almost like we got the match a little bit too soon. I liked it, but I was like, I don't know, give me a little bit more of an angle, because we just started this thing last week, Dom.
Yeah, no, I will agree with you there. The finish to that match, I was not big on. It just seemed
it just felt abrupt. It wasn't like I'm not complaining about it.
No,
because it was fun. But it was also like 3 weeks from now, I would have liked it more. Is that fair?
Yeah, it seemed short-sighted, and it also seemed like, not conducive to like how big they put Penta over last week. And I did not. And then on top of that too, there was another match that ended in a roll-up finish too. It was Mox's match, Mox and Kingston's tag match. So it was like those two on the same show did not. Yeah, that's something I can be critical of for sure. Was that not too big of a fan of those finishes? There's certain different ways you can handle it. Honestly, like Cody's kind of Teflon, so I really thought like you could give Penta the win there, and it would establish him further, and Cody would be just fine. So yeah, I would have been much more engaged with seeing something further Penta's star power.
DJ, who's a big fan of our show, thank you so much, DJ. I see you all the time. He is not a fan of this new name of a new faction. Now, faction comes out, they get a name. It's like when a faction is presented in wrestling, it's like when like a super group is put together. You know what I mean? It's like John, like what's one of your favorite bands? What's your favorite band of all time?
AC/DC.
AC/DC. So we're gonna take like AC/DC. They had Axl sing with them. So we're going to take Axl from Guns N' Roses. We're going to put them together. Now, if you're in the chat, I want to hear your best combination of Axl, Guns N' Roses, AC/DC supergroup name. And if I don't like it, I'll shit on it. All right? Take a shot. Because here's the problem. When you have wrestling superstars that you already know, and now you put them together in a group, you have to now make a name that meets that expectation. And AEW, as I've mentioned, has a ton of expectations. The group last week that ended the show was this new faction. MJF, Sean Spears, FDR, Tully Blanchard in their corner. They're presented in this promo. What did you think of the promo? John, you got to see some social media hype from it. Your initial reaction from it?
My initial reaction was that I would agree with DJ. I don't really understand how the name makes any sense, but maybe Dom can clear that up.
Yeah, Dom, what's your take? I'm I'm not sold on the name just yet, but I don't hate it either.
I just
I'm still
I don't get where it came from.
I don't get where it came from, but I'm on the fence. You can get it over to me. Inner Circle was like that for me at the beginning.
Yeah, I think Tully introducing it the way, like him cutting the first promo for them, was a good way to kind of introduce that kind of a faction name, because he even mentioned in his promo that
this is a great comment. Chad Michael saying Pinnacle like a baseball
that's really what I thought too.
For some baseball card fans from the 90s.
For that one.
We got a couple of baseball card fans from the 90s. I didn't mean to cut you off, Tom. I got to get my Kirby Puckett shit in there real quick.
I thought about that. I believe you me. I thought about
Go ahead. Get your Barry Bonds Pittsburgh crap in there.
Oh, no, I was more of an Andy Van Slyke man. So,
John Clark, do you have a 90s baseball reference that you would like to add to the show?
I'm not really a good baseball guy, and ever since I grew up, the Pirates suck, so I haven't.
Leave it to Dom, who's in Pittsburgh, to take that right over the chin. That's all right, Dom. Where were you, buddy?
So Tully cut a promo, and he pretty much encompassed, I think, the name of the faction, because he said he started off with the greatest faction wrestling, Four Horsemen, and he's going to finish his career with the greatest faction wrestling, meaning like the Pinnacle. And like, you have the top tag team, that's been debated as the top tagging team in FTR. Mm-hmm. Then you have MJF, this new uprising star. You add Wardlow, a new rising big men to the mix. And obviously they're conceited and full of themselves. So they're going to say they're the Pinnacle. And I think it just does make sense a lot from that. And it's nothing that's like too like jaw dropping or super like, oh my God, like what a wild thing.
It works for the service of a promo and writing dialogue. Oh, you're this, but we're the pinnacle of this. We're the pinnacle of this. And you can go back to, it's serviceable in that language.
And you know what? I think it's almost has that evolution type sound to it too, where it's just like, okay, boom, it's going to pack that punch more so as this faction like kind of works with one another. So I like it. I like the name a lot.
We have some baseball references. We already have some people saying they need to go for the Cincinnati Reds. I don't know about that. I'm a fan of my beloved. I'm a fan of my beloved Chicago White Sox. So I'm okay with that here. And then we have some other people saying they're not fans. I think Foul is a better name than Pinnacle. DuckTales. Woohoo! Says Emmanuel. That's a deep reference. We went from sports to nerd stuff really quickly here. And then we have some people north of the border saying "Go Jays."
Go Jays. I don't
mind. We went from baseball from wrestling to baseball pretty quickly.
Season's run.
I was fine with it. It was a thumbs in the middle segment. I was expecting a little bit more from it. That is an issue with some other things on the show. We had Matt Hardy, the Butcher and the Blade, and members of the Inner Circle versus Jurassic Park and Bear Country. This felt like a combination of a bunch of loose pieces here, Dom.
It did. And like they really kind of like put that whole Bear Country versus Jurassic Express feud kind of out of nowhere. That was kind of weird. I did like Matt Hardy kind of controlling an empire kind of thing. And we're seeing some more of that develop, and him like, wanting to steal the spotlight and everybody being kind of okay with it.
And get the finish at the end.
I thought it very much helped Hardy. And, give it a little bit more time. I'm really hoping though, that this will kind of find some consistency for a team I really like Butcher and Blade, where they're going to stay put for a little bit with this, with the Empire, instead of like getting pushed around here and moved around here. I want to see some like a little bit more stability with those guys, because I think their ceiling so high. So,
Dom, are you ready for my first challenging comment of the night?
I am ready. Hit me.
Okay. Christian Cage debuted for AEW at the Revolution pay-per-view. Mm-hmm. And they presented him as someone who was going to speak on this week's show, and he got a promo. It wasn't in the ring, so he got no fan reaction, only a dubbed-in fan reaction. Because if you didn't know, I hope you knew, based on when they pitched to, we're going picture-in-picture, fan reaction that was dubbed in. And that's no shot. That's just, they do that for safety reasons. 2 weeks out, quarantine, protect everybody, all those different things. So they give him this promo, and the promo is fine, but it didn't work because of the natural circumstances of we know it's taped. And he does a promo, and it feels like 45 seconds where it's just like tight time, and we got to cram in so much. This is the first time where I felt like a Dynamite didn't have enough time to service anyone until we got to the main event, which I was fine because the main event was great. First time I felt like I had a one match main event, and we had other stuff on the show. We had Christian. We had the match you were talking about with Hardy and the 8-man tag. That was an 8-man tag, Yeah. And I felt like third week on the show, second week technically on Dynamite, where he's just become another guy. And I don't think Christian should feel like that when he's on there. Like Christian, like John, you're in the middle, WWE guy. Like that's a critical point, right? If you want to flip over, you're like, what are you doing with my Christian guy? I love him. I'm a WWE fan, right?
We said the same thing about Sting after a few weeks. We've said the same thing especially about Ty Dillinger and Neville as they were known before. But you get my point. It's been happening repeatedly, really.
It's the hard balance of having a deep roster and you only have 2 hours. Like SmackDown or Raw is 5 hours, two separate nights.
I also don't think it's their fault that these guys are being made by the public to be so big of a deal. Like
that's a good point too.
Obviously, being made to be a big deal because he's coming from WWE, so it's a big deal then. But somebody else like an indie guy that might sign it. Actually, we saw that last week. It wasn't made to be as big of a deal because it's for the media. It's not as big of a deal.
No, John makes a great point there. But what's your take, Dom?
Yeah, I'm very much with you too. I think on Christian and how I really thought they did another disservice to him by not having him get to cut a promo that night after Dynamite or after Revolution in the ring. It just did not make sense that they just did not give him that speaking time. And then to follow that up with a promo that's not in the ring, it really takes away the effect of like, okay, I want this to pack more of a punch, where if they maybe did it in like a vignette or something like that, it might have had a little bit more effect, but it just, it didn't. Yeah, it was a fine promo, but it's like you're introducing Christian, an established star in WWE, and you want him to get over and make himself more unique than maybe even what he was in WWE. You want him to show a little bit more different, but he didn't
feel any more unique.
He didn't feel anything too like. No. It was just like, okay, he's saying stuff that you expect a star to say, but it's something that really grabbed you either.
No, I'll grab you with this. Can I grab them with something? I'll grab me with this.
Grab me hard.
And I'm going to grab you with this. This is the Road to WrestleMania activity and trivia theme book. It's an official item. Did you know this is an official item?
Ooh.
You could win it. There's so many different things in here, from you can draw your own Titantron entrance to different trivia questions about what do WWE superstars look like without their eyebrows, and so much more. It smells good. You could win it, and I'll mail it out to you. I've been vaccinated, so you are safe in that regard as well. I got one shot. By the time you get it, I'll have two, so I guess it'll be fine, right? I assume that'll be okay. So here's what I ask of you. Go ahead and share the link. And if you do that, more people will hear about the show. We are charging ahead. Kudos to Dom, John. We're doing our job. You and I, 2 shows a week on the feed. Dom doing 2 shows a week. His brother, his degenerate brother.
Yes.
And him, his slapdick brother. Yeah. Doing WCW Rewritten and AEW's 2 Dudes with Dynamite. So we have literally a Patreon's worth of content. I don't mind saying this. We have sometimes like 10 or 11 hours worth of audio on the feed for free, no ads. All right. For free, no ads. Let me just specify that. Because we just dropped Britt Baker today. We have Renee Paquette tomorrow. We have an interview with Eric Bischoff. I know some of you diehards are watching or following the streams and you don't do the podcast. Do the podcast, because you'll get all of the shows you normally would. Maybe you listen to a little bit, but then you'll get all of the show. Oh, I listened to a little bit of the show and I had to go to bed. Well, download the audio and you get the rest tomorrow. You know where you're picking it up. You know what's up. You know what the devices are. You know what's going on. I'm not insulting your intelligence. You know what's going on. So go ahead and support the show. If you share it and you tag us on Twitter, I see it. I follow our social media, and maybe you'll win one of these bad boys. And I'm going to shout that out to our friends in Europe as well. If you guys are out there in Europe, you do this. I will pay the extra postage.
Wow, how about that?
And mail one of those to you. All right, let's get back into the mix here on AEW Dynamite. Don't worry, John Clark. We're going to talk about you as well. Sometimes they say, I've heard AEW fans say that WWE has a sloppy shop. That that NXT has a sloppy shop, that they're sloppy.
They say that.
But I got to say this, though. And Dom, this one may be hard to swallow.
I'm waiting.
I don't mind. You'll like the challenge, don't you? You like the challenge.
I love it.
They did this pre-match promo. It was Eddie Kingston and Jon Moxley. Mm-hmm. And this is hard for me to say because, and I may get in trouble for this, I've worked on sets with Eddie Kingston. I've done an interview with Jon Moxley, but I haven't shot a promo with him. I've shot a promo with Eddie Kingston. I didn't think this promo was bad, but for what it felt like there were two different promos going on at the same time to tease this tag match against the Good Brothers, Kingston and Moxley. Like, I didn't think it was bad, but like my expectations are built so high, right, Dom?
Yeah, it wasn't. I don't think it was their best work, but I think
it was fun. It was entertaining.
Yeah,
but by the time it ended, I was like, why did you rush that? It felt like everything is rushed on the show.
Yeah, that's a good point, Kev. I think it did seem a little tight, like for time. And they like, yeah, it's something that they wanted to cram in. That's a thing is like Dynamite's got to be more conscientious of like spreading things out and not having to worry so much. I only know you got 2 hours a week, on your mainstream television product, but just cut it down and figure out what is super duper important, what can be addressed later on, and what really needs to be spotlighted because. Yeah, I think them trying to rush something like that in, probably it did not help it. I think it was still a good promo between the two. And I think them going against the Good Brothers, who are very smarmy and comedic in their delivery, they kind of fired back in their own way for that. So in that way, it makes sense. But yeah, it was something that was like, it wasn't clicking as they typically were. Marks is like one of the top promos I feel, and Eddie Kingston arguably is too. So it's like you want to see those guys just pound away, and like they said they're great stuff, and they still have that conviction and believability. But yeah, it wasn't their best work, I don't think, this week either too.
But the match, I felt, was even less than that, and the match was good. The match was solid and had some frenetic action to it, but it was Eddie Kingston gets thrown in the ring, he's thrown in the apron, and all. Here comes Kenny Omega, and the match is over with. And I was like, "This is the Impact Tag Team Champions versus two of your big names."
It's Finn Juice.
And Finn, you know what I'm talking about. Like I'm ahead of myself. Finn Juice won the belts this week, right? I'm ahead of myself. Thank you, Dom. I appreciate that. Crack the whip on me. I don't mind it. All right. But you know what I'm saying. Like, in the eyes of the people that bought tickets to the show, all right, when the show is taped, and they've been taped like a week ago, all right, they thought they were getting the Impact Tag Team Champions. Is that fair to say?
Oh, that's fair to say, I would say. Yeah.
So that's maybe that's my caveat to get away with it, right, John? John's like, where can you get away? That's the way to John's smiling. He's like, where can you crawl your way out of this one? All right, I have no problem saying it. Maybe I messed it up, but it was a fun match. But my expectations are high. I thought this match was going to be bigger than Thunder Rosa and Britt Baker, and it wasn't.
See, I thought the match was just fine. I liked.
It was just fine, but here's the thing: the kid gloves are off now with AEW.
They are, but Kev, I mean, the what was heavily promoted for this week was that main event. So I did not have expectations. Like, that was almost like a pleasant surprise when I was tuning into Dynamite and not really looking at the card. Was when they showed that match. I was like, oh, that's on here too. Cool. So it was like, to me, it felt like a pleasant addition to it. But and obviously you'd like to see that if they hyped that for the main event, then my expectations would have been higher. but that wasn't the main event. So I thought the story that they told in that, like with Eddie just constantly getting beat up and constantly having to fight to tag in Moxley and then getting that tag and Moxley fighting back. I wasn't a big fan of the roll-up finish, especially like how I mentioned before, because we saw that earlier in the match.
Moxley and Kingston get the win because I was like, you could have protected the Impact guys.
You could have protected the Impact guys, so they could have came up with a different finish. But the story throughout that match, I thought was good. I liked it. But the ending I wasn't a big fan
of. Before we get our rating, can I deviate just even a little bit more? Because, John, you follow this as well. Impact AEW collaborating. We're getting a Rich Swann versus Kenny Omega title versus title match on an Impact pay-per-view. And Tommy Dreamer, who's in the creative team of AEW, saying that this will be a title versus title match and there will be a finish. He said that today publicly, right? Now, Dom, you're suspect of that. Where does this collaboration go? As we just had this match with the Good Brothers from Impact against two prime players from AEW.
Yeah, I think Kenny wins it. I think he wins the match.
He wins both belts.
I would think he wins both belts, and because I mean, when he first stepped, into the Impact Zone and stuff, he was talking about collecting belts, and he had the AAA Mega Championship there, and then then he was wanting the Impact title. So I think it's only makes sense that Kenny walks away with that title. I don't think there's going to be some sort of screwy finish, and if there is, I don't think that looks very good on the image of Impact. Who we're so used to having screwy finishes throughout their pro wrestling tenure. So I think you want to deliver on something, and whether that's getting that, and it only creates excitement if you put the Impact title on such a huge star like Kenny Omega. So
true. I don't know what favors it does for Impact. John, your take objectively, that seems like a weird scenario for Impact, doesn't it?
Yes, and I myself am expecting a screwy finish.
Okay, that's fair.
It's very fair.
I just don't think that they're going to give up their main championship to essentially a different company, if that makes sense.
Wouldn't that piss off fans? Isn't that the played out thing?
Okay,
the champion versus champion territory versus. They've done it a little bit before, and every time they've done it, it's always a screwy finish.
But then, how do you get it back off of them onto somebody else from Impact?
My thing is, I think Impact can eat it in this circumstance.
You just take it away.
It's a matter of they aren't running live shows. You know what I mean? They're not running live shows. So that's my only caveat to this deal. Like, you talk about how can you snake yourself out of the logic of this. Logic is very bent right now. Logic is very bent right now. I heard a lot of people complaining, WWE is trying to get 45,000 people at a show in a pandemic. Well, there's vaccines rolling out. So does that make, and depends on who you talk to. The logic is bent. I could get Impact losing their title and that becoming an interesting storyline for the TV show, and that becoming more compelling television if that means Kenny Omega is doing double duty and playing a completely different story on Impact on Tuesdays and a completely different story on Wednesdays when he's on AEW. I'm okay with that if they deliver. If you jump off and you take that risk and it means something. Other people saying Swann wins, but does it in a heel way.
No chance.
I feel bad for Rich Swann because this guy has gone through hell in the last year with a very serious leg injury that basically almost ended his career, and somehow he was able to come out of it and still become a world champion. But Kenny Omega has the momentum, right? He has the momentum. John, you can't deny that. You can see that becoming a real thing for them.
Deny what? Rich Swann having the momentum?
No, just Omega having the momentum, and that could bring some more attention to Impact as a brand.
Sure, yeah. Like I've been saying, the only problem with me is if he wins it, he has to lose it then, unless you're going to take it from him.
Which is what I think. Dom, you jumped right to it, Johnny. What is the end game here for them?
That's what I think the payoff is Kenny will lose it. So he'll win it, and then you have a very extended time where Kenny holds that belt, and Impact does not have a world champion, and they have to make the opportunity to build a new top star that will credibly take that belt away from Kenny. And like, could you imagine if they took the moment to build up Jake something over that course of time?
Oh man,
months on end,
or just some in-house guy that they could have like made this. Like he could have been made. And I'm not saying Rich Swann isn't a made guy. To a degree, he is. He's a world champion.
Sure.
Right? But like a new in-house name that they could have just like shot the rocket to with all the gasoline that they could muster. And Kenny Omega wouldn't be opposed to like out of nowhere. Like, yeah, I'll lay down for this guy. I'll lay down if it's going to make this guy for real, you know? That's what we're saying. But here we go. The all-important question. Dom, I watched a little bit of both shows, but I'll let you have the all-important because I know you got to wake up really early.
I do. Plus, I got to do
John, you've been very patient. You've been very Dominic. You have to be very agreeing that your opponent here.
Oh yes,
in the black and yellow for the NBC brand, for the NBC Universal brand, has been very patient and has chimed in with courteous decorum.
Oh, very much so. Very much so. I thank you.
I will ask you, what is your 1 to 10 this week on AEW? And be honest.
Okay.
Because I thought this was a one great match show. There were some other things on the show. Jade Cargo was cool.
Yeah.
Helico and Ray Phoenix were solid. But me, I'm not going to say it's my solid rating. I'm a little in the middle on this show, outside of the main event.
A little in the middle, huh?
Outside of the main event. Outside of the main event.
Well, you know, I feel like I told you initially too when you asked me what kind of exceptions did I take with you had to make me think about it because I couldn't think of like something that really stood out. But they were right. There were a few hiccups there, looking back in retrospective of it. But that main event really delivered for me. So I'm gonna give it a 7.4. I think 7.4.
7.4. 7.4. All right, you're John's laughing because he's a little bit fond of the 7.5 dog. I don't know if you know that.
Oh, really? I didn't know that. No.
That is what is it? Randy? Who is it from American Idol? Randy
Dog.
Randy Jackson.
Yeah.
Randy Jackson loved himself some 7.5. It's a little pitchy, dog. It's a little pitchy.
A little pitchy, dog.
It's a 7.5.
Well, that's my Price is Right bid against John then. My $1 bid.
All right, Dom, I'm going to give you the solo screen. Give him the hard pitch on what you got going on this week on WrestleZone.
Sure. Kev, John, thanks for having me on. You can follow me on Twitter at Dominic D'Angelo, but check out what we got going on. I interviewed Eric Bischoff, like Kev said. That's up on the podcast feed. Coming up, I interviewed the recently unretired Doug Williams, who will be coming back to wrestling. He talks about his future plans, what his current contract status is, and then he talks about Nick Aldis, his former partner's journey as NWA World Champion, and then we touch upon a lot more too. He's a great guy. I love talking to him. Also, Two Dynamite Dudes every Friday into Saturday. Sometimes it's one of those days, but it pops up one of those at one point in time there. So check that out with me and Marcus. We'll be talking about that. And coming up, Marcus and I, with Kev probably, tomorrow, we're going to try to do a live WCW rewritten.
I'm going back to when I had hair, John. I'm going back to when you look at me and Dom, the two bald dorks on this show.
Yep.
And John's coming in here with all his young virility with his full head of hair. I don't like it. I don't like the youth movement on this podcast.
This is back when I was in the womb.
Way back when.
Don't you woo me. Don't you woo me, you son of a bitch.
We don't need to hear that.
We don't hear you woman.
But no, so it's going to be WCW Sold Out 1998, and Marcus changed the card up quite a bit.
I got to watch Sold Out before I see
You don't need to. No, that's the thing, Kevin. You don't need to watch Sold Out because this is a really different card than what WCW presented originally.
All right, so here's the thing. Here's the best part about this. And John, I know you'd love it. I know you've checked out some episodes as well and sounded off with me on it. It is a fun show in the sense of give us the pieces and we'll figure it out. Yeah. And it is the fans. I know fans have this every week. Why don't they just do what I say I want them to do? Yeah. And I know that sounds so ridiculous and indulgent, and we just go off on a tangent like that once a week with this very subjective thing from a very specific time when cultural norms are a completely different thing. and it lets us rewrite this. I wonder if we could do Attitude Era rewritten.
Oh, you could, yeah.
Like John, aren't you already doing this in your head? Aren't you doing like NXT first era rewritten? What do you want to rewrite? What do you want to rewrite, John, in wrestling?
I used to do the when the WWE 2K games were good and you could do the universe/GM mode.
Yeah.
I would do that as far as like my own brand split between Raw and SmackDown and how I thought that should be.
Hell yeah, dude.
But yeah, that would be very interesting. I'm relatively new, just starting to watch in like 2008, 2007. So a lot of that, I mean,
dude, you got what? He's got 13 years in.
I
hate when people say, "Oh, you've been watching for 20 years."
Well, he could do this sold out rewrite, and for all I know, I would think it was the real one.
The real card. Yeah, the real card.
Because the real one happened in like 97. Yeah. So there is that regard, but that is part of the network though too, is like the deep dive stuff now. So we'll get into that all now with WWE Network moving over to Peacock
in 1 hour.
Yeah, in 1 hour. That happens in 1 hour. It's true. Dom, thank you so much. Giving you a follow on the Twitter machine and all that good stuff. You're doing an incredible amount of work right now.
Thanks, man. It's been a lot of fun. I love doing it. So it's my pleasure. So thanks for listening, guys. And
you are a real MVP. A real MVP. I shouldn't say that on a podcast because then the other sites could hear it and they're going to come in and they're going to do what they did with DeFelis to us. And like
mercenary, I tell you, man.
Yeah, I can't have it. If you go and tell me, son of John, this son of a bitch shows up tomorrow on the Observer, I'm gonna take a bus.
Could you imagine?
I'm gonna find him at a grocery store and just take him out at the knee. Whisper in his ear. Whisper in his ear. Are you gonna do a podcast with your fucking legs? You son of a bitch.
Take a detour. Pick me up on the way as a detour.
Hey, there you go.
You'll drive me. I'll go to your house.
Well, I'm a little out of the way.
We're driving. I'm gonna find you in Central PA, and then I'll be like, go out of our way. Let's go out of our way to Pittsburgh to find Dom.
It's so only 2 roads. We'll get there.
Yeah, it's not too difficult.
Dom, thank you so much. I appreciate it, buddy. Take care.
Thanks, guys. Let's go.
All right. I hope the rest of the Lenten season is good to you.
I appreciate it. No booze for me.
No booze for me. I'm drinking for you, Dom.
Drink for me, then, man. All right. See you guys.
Love you, Dom.
Yeah.
Dominic, always a gem of a human being. We'll let him go. Let's get right into NXT. What do you want to cover, buddy? I mean, hell of a show. I know I'm late. I know I'm 47 minutes, and I always do the delayed thing with you, John. You're a good patient man. But hell of an NXT tonight in terms of a counteract for what we were getting from AEW. Woo! We got Walter back. We got Balor versus Kross. Real nuclear heat. We got teased car collisions between 2 people in a takeover match. What do you want to jump into?
Let's talk about the main event, which was a tag team championship match between Karrion Kross, Finn Balor, and of course the tag team champions. Which I want to point out there was an injury during this match that broke afterwards. NXT champion Danny Burch was removed from the medical staff towards the end of the main event. He came down at a weird angle on his neck and shoulder area, rolled out of the ring, and they quickly
that did not look good.
They quickly went to a commercial. When they came back, the announcer said that WWE medical staff had taken Danny Burch out of the match. But they still win. Obviously they weren't going to put the belts on Karrion and Finn Balor. So it was still a decently good match. Nowhere near the best thing of the night. I honestly think this was one of the worst parts of the night, and it was the main event.
Really? And they had the overrun. They went into about 10:05.
Yeah, so NXT is actually officially on TV guides now to run until 10:08 p.m. So it's no longer until 10 o'clock. They've officially added the 8-minute overrun.
They've been doing it every week now. You almost expect it.
Yeah, so that was interesting. I'll tell you why this didn't work for me. To me, they're copying the same thing they're doing with the women's tag titles, where Sasha Banks and Bianca Belair, who are future opponents, are forced to team up to try to win the tag gold. That's exactly what they're doing here with Finn and Karrion. That match
played out for you.
Yeah, the match was made official for Takeover Stand and Deliver in a couple weeks. So that'll be interesting. But what do you think about that direction they went in?
I mean, it's not a broken move to make, is the two title contenders against each other as a tag team. Here's a way to get them in the ring, but not exactly have them touch each other, but definitely tease the tension.
Oh, they did, though. They did.
Oh, no, they teased it because Karrion went off on him at the end of this match. He even
Scarlett got hit.
Oh, yeah, but he let it break down into just a match. It's just, we're going to fight each other at the end of this thing, and I don't even care if I win these tag bouts. It's just about me wrecking you, right? And that's what the show ended with. And also Scarlett got Scarlett got her business in there by saying, it's just a matter of time before we get this belt. I thought that was cool. That was a nice segment. Was it overrun worthy? That's 50-50, that's 50-50. But I enjoyed it. I didn't hate this match. It's unfortunate about the injury, though. I hope that it's not. That's the only thing that makes me worried. You never want to see anyone get hurt. In that regard, severely hurt. Everyone takes an injury, or takes severe violence as a part of it. But you never want to see anyone impaired by their by what they do in the ring. So hopefully Danny Burch is all right in this regard. We don't know yet.
Let's talk about what I think was the highlight of the night for the show, and that was the return of Imperium's Walter for the first time since the pandemic.
Hell of a return, too.
He has been the WWE UK champion for 713 days in a row as of now. So that's obviously by far the longest reign, and probably all of professional wrestling right now. Walter with the UK title there. It's interesting, the prospect of thinking that he is going to now feud with Tommaso Ciampa, because I wouldn't think this is for the UK title, but it could be for all we know. But I think this elevates Imperium. This elevates Walter, obviously, him being in the US again. And then we're not sure what happened to Timothy Thatcher. He's been out again. Rumors going around. We can't confirm if it was anything with the COVID stuff or not. We don't know that. But what do you think about this feud that's going to be coming up?
It's an interesting pairing. If they go in that direction of just Ciampa versus Walter. Like I said, I'm bouncing back and forth from my other show. It doesn't seem like Thatcher is going to be completely in Ciampa's corner.
Think of the slaps that we're going to get in this match.
Oh my god, the slaps, the chops, the striking of palm upon flesh will be loud. If you want visceral, audible violence, you're going to get it. You're going to get it tonight, right? Or at least whenever this match airs on TakeOver, because there's 2 nights to TakeOver. Walter is just this otherworldly, larger-than-life guy for WWE. And he is one of those, I think, deep, dark, hard, undeniable stars. If he showed up on Raw or SmackDown, he would instantly be the focus.
Yeah, he is. It's very rare that a UK talent that's almost exclusively in UK gets the type of reaction in the United States.
And Europe to a broader degree, in terms of drawing other people. There's definitely people in Germany that would love to hear this guy, or Eastern Europe that would love to see and show up.
Germany, Europe in general has this motion that it's you can't argue with the fact that Walter is the best wrestler from the UK. That's just how they think, and I wouldn't doubt it. I mean, I don't disagree.
He's their Brock Lesnar.
Yeah, and that's the thing. But he's not really built. I mean, he's tall and he's big, but
he just hits so goddamn hard.
Yeah, muscular wise, you would never know. I mean,
and that's fine. He's like a product of a bygone era. I mean, wrestlers could look like that and be as intimidating in 1960 or 70, well into the 80s, really. And then the muscle guy perspective came in, and you have to look a certain way in that regard. And there's some guys we saw tonight from Europe that looked fantastic. Finn Balor has 12-pack abs, right?
And speaking of people making their way over from NXT UK, we have also the return tonight of self-proclaimed, technically official cruiserweight champion, Jordan
The
Devlin.
ace. The Irish
Yeah.
ace.
So he comes face-to-face in the ring with Legado del Fantasma and Santos Escobar after their win over Breezango. They are going to have, this was officially announced tonight, it will be, what's the word I'm thinking of when they combine the titles into one? What's that word?
Title unification.
Yes. They are having a title unification match in a few weeks at NXT TakeOver.
Jordan Devlin has had the title since pre-pandemic. Santos Escobar has won it since the beginning of the pandemic stateside. They can now finally safely have these guys compete in the ring against each other. And there is the issues with Jordan Devlin, which I believe legally have been investigated. I'm not going to dive into them because we're just trying to talk about wrestling. But Devlin made the case tonight that this could be a real collision, that I have a real serious case to face you for this title. And mind you, clear the air. I came here, I crossed the continental lines and went through the taping, the testing, and all these other things to prove to you in this beautiful sports car that I rolled up in that I deserve to be the cruiserweight champion.
And this goes back to the discussion we had about 20 minutes ago with Rich Swann and Kenny Omega, another unification match that we're going to have here, where there's the possibility of a screwy ending, but I don't think that's going to be the case. I do think they will settle on somebody to be the true cruiserweight champion. The question is, I think this is 50-50 down the middle on who's going to win. I mean, who do you think is going to win this? I have no idea.
It's very 50-50. I'm either way on this. Now, mind you, if Escobar wins, and that means go over to Europe, do a tour of duty in Europe, and by tour of duty, I mean you're in the studio and you tape your 4 matches in a week, and then you're out of there. That's fine, in that regard.
Yeah, I think it's going to be interesting.
Because they don't. With the shows in Europe, they don't have to tape them in sequence. They can tape them whenever they want.
And I think the build over the next few weeks will determine more who's going to win. Now, let's not forget, Jordan Devlin has already been acting like the Cruiserweight champion in NXT UK right now. Anyway, we have essentially had 2 champions the past year, but with him being stuck because of COVID.
But I'm not wrong to say that the NXT brand in the United States has more focus. No shot at my friends in Europe. No shot.
I can truthfully sit here and tell you I've never watched one match or one episode of NXT.
Oh, you got it. Dude,
ever.
It's I watch it on a delay. So like every 3 weeks, I'll watch like 2 or 3 episodes of it. So I'm always like 2 or 3 episodes of it.
I think because of it used to be 5 hour, but now since there's a 4 hour time gap for daylight savings, it airs at 3 p.m. on Tuesday or something here?
On Thursdays at 3 p.m. I always enjoy it. It always feels tight. It never feels overdone. It's a strong show. If you just want something that's like straight up wrestling, if you want something that's in the line of like an AEW Dark or Elevation, where you have like where it has the same pattern and pace, and you're just a WWE loyalist, you'll get what you want out of this show. You'll get what you want out of it, and you won't feel cheated. And if you're going over to Peacock anyway, you're going to get it there anyway. So what's the problem?
Yeah, and while we're talking about the championships, we might as well cover the last one we haven't gotten to yet, which would be we didn't cover the NXT Women's Championship, which didn't really have any developments tonight other than the fact that Io Shirai handed over a contract to Raquel Gonzalez and said to sign it. This is interesting because typically we get the challenger being the one that's doing the challenging. In this case, it's the champion who is saying, I want to face you next. That's kind of rare. What do you think about that approach?
Different. I mean, because just Raquel's been on television so much more. You're doing Raquel Gonzalez, the big, tall Amazon, versus Io Shirai, the established, yet smaller stature champion. Didn't mind it. Because it makes it seem like Io Shirai hears the talk and responds to it and wants to respond to then the stature of the challenger. I'm okay with it. It worked, especially when you physically saw them in the ring. And it was Io Shirai with that fierce look. That look that feels like it could stare right through you. and reminded you that, if you're going to be bigger than me, you're literally going to have to put me in an ambulance to beat me in this match. I liked it. It added more fuel to actually physically see them face to face. And it's almost the simplicity of it worked.
Absolutely. It was kind of short and sweet tonight, which was an interesting thing. And it's also it's nice to see them taking the women's tag titles seriously. They've done more in 2 weeks with these titles than WWE has done with their women's tag titles in the last year.
Wow. That's a remark.
Although I'm not sold on what they did, because I think Candice LeRae and Indy Hartwell should have been next in line for a match, but instead we have a challenge laid down by Aaliyah, obviously because of Robert Stonebrand. But next week we're going to get a women's tag team championship match. Ember and Shotzi cut a very entertaining promo. I wrote an article this past Sunday about Ember Moon saying that she contemplated retirement when she was injured last year, but when she was presented the opportunity to come back to NXT, where she felt she was respected more or not lost in the mix, she did it, and look where it got her. Now she's the second ever women's tag team champion in NXT. What do you think?
Technically first, if you
second.
Really
what do you think? What do you think about this match next week?
It's interesting. I mean, it's another thing. It's another sign of the depth that NXT's women's division has.
Yeah, I think that obviously we're going to see Ember and Shotzi retain. I think at TakeOver we're getting Candice and Indy versus that team. They don't want to do what they've been doing the past 2 weeks and kind of just like they're going through every team week after week after week after week challenging, and at some point they're going to run out if everybody's already challenged. They need to build out these stories longer than just 1 week. Obviously, Raquel and Dakota Kai aren't really going to be a tag team when Raquel wins the women's championship, which doesn't really leave too many current teams. They're going to need to make new teams. We got a video package tonight for a new NXT women superstar. Tell us about that. You know what I'm talking about?
Saray.
Yes.
What a name. Tell me about Saray. I didn't catch this. Is this a tease of someone I know already?
I think so, but since I'm not really an indie guy, I'm probably not as familiar as you are.
Okay. I heard so many people talking about this. I'll have to follow up because, here's the thing. I'm bouncing back and forth from AEW when I know I have 2 people on the show, one to do NXT, one to do AEW Dynamite. I won't do the rating. I'll do whatever I catch, right? But I saw Saray talk, and I was like, who is this Saray? Because we had Zoe Stark on tonight, and I thought Zoe Stark, I caught her match. I thought she looked fantastic against Dakota Kai. Yet Dakota Kai caught that destructive kick and was able to win. And I thought Dakota Kai needed. She lost the women's tag titles after that flashy, just give us the belt. Then we lose it an hour later.
Well, and it's clear by what they did tonight that this debuting superstar is going to be feuding with Xia Li. They've kind of been given that. Obviously, the name would suggest that Japanese/Asian gimmick that is going to challenge Xia Li. So that's going to be interesting. They're obviously focusing on the women's division a lot more than opponents and other brands of WWE. And we obviously talked about how strong AEW was tonight with their main event with the women, but we have more than 3 really good feuds with the women on NXT, and that is more than Raw and SmackDown.
Tell me about LA Knight. I loved a little bit of the pivot tonight with him where it was promo from the back into the ring, into the commercial, into the match. I thought that flowed really good. NXT is doing some of these things where it's constantly not wanting you to lose your attention. I liked this. I thought this was neat. And he shout out to a picture of Andre the Giant. You know about that, Andre. And he's a little bit of a throwback Gets in the ring with Austin Gray, has a hell of a finish. I love the flash stunner finish on him. I love the theme music. LA Knight has arrived. They've featured him every single week since he's been announced as a member of NXT.
Yeah, and they don't always put new talents immediately into feuds like this. So I think that having them start a feud with Bronson Reed immediately means they see something in him that needs to be brought to the viewer's attention sooner rather than later. Similar to what they did with Karrion Kross. Now, granted, he's not going for the title yet, but he's still in a prominent feud. If we're talking about some other people that haven't gotten this treatment, it took Kushida months to get into a feud. It took Cameron Grimes months. It even took Damian Priest months to get into a feud. LA Knight, his first week's here, and he's probably going to have a takeover match. Now, it is a double takeover, so
I'd be really surprised if he wasn't on Takeover. I'd be really, really surprised.
Well, because it's a 2-night event, he'll probably squeeze in. But if it was a 1-night event, I don't know. I'm not sure if he would.
If they were doing the one night, would he be on like the kickoff match or something like that? Yeah, it's worth noting.
This is a lot to take in for me because we have a lot of these NXT people that are coming in that are new, are very well-known indie guys or indie girls that I'm like, who's Eli Drake? Who's Eli Drake?
Yeah, well, you shut up. You know who Eli Drake is, and NWA.
I don't, but champion. Okay. You can say that, but I don't.
Jonathan, you're a purist. Adam Cole, you want to talk about NXT purism, right? And Adam Cole and Kyle O'Reilly have been really going at it. In-ring promo tonight with them. Also, a potential vehicular assault as well. Where is this going? We're getting a Kyle O'Reilly, Adam Cole match at TakeOver on one of those nights.
We are going to probably get this match as the main event of one of the 2 nights of TakeOver. They were obviously it was censored, but they were blurting out F-bombs, S-bombs, every curse word in the book tonight with the police on the side of the road.
What a good boy. He said F-bombs and S-bombs.
They were arrested. We don't know the developments. All we know is William Regal said next week on the show, he is going to settle this once and for all. So I expect them to be in some kind of like a last man standing or Hell in a Cell type match at TakeOver. Hell in a Cell would be interesting because I don't think NXT has ever had a Hell in a Cell match.
I think we get a pit fight. That'd be cool.
I don't know if we're going to get that, but the idea is we're going to get some kind of stipulation match here, and it's going to be a very good match.
You can't just do a normal wrestling match when people try to kill each other with cars. You know what I mean? I don't think you can do that. What was the Iron Circle match they did one time? Was that Adam Cole and Velveteen Dream? They did that one time where it was like they were at each other's throats.
Yeah.
And I could see something if you're tying in cars. Overall, I thought this was a pretty goddamn strong episode of NXT. The 1 to 10, what do you give it, buddy?
7.41.
All right. You just wanted to give a little bit more than the rating that Dominic gave it tonight. He gave it a 7.4. You gave it a 7.41.
Can't be a 7.5. It just was missing something. I don't know what, but 7.4.
I love you, buddy. I love you. I know we're just we always goof. The ratings are not nearly as important as what you think of the show. Let us know what you guys think on the podcast. Hit us up on Twitter at WrestleZone.com. On Instagram at WrestleZone.com, and so much more beyond. I am making the towns, trying to do comedy with one vaccine shot in my shoulder. I have another one coming up in a few weeks, and I feel safer. I'm not doing all the towns. I'm doing the towns where I feel safe, John. Good. And I will be in the comedy capital of the world, Valparaiso, Indiana. And the seats can't be sold out. They're reserved out, right? This show, 2 shows, reserved out. Reserved out. We can't sell them out in 2021. We can only reserve them out. And we are reserved out. All right? Just based on safety precautions. We are reserved out. We are talking a potential double sellout Friday night, 2 shows. At the Market Lounge, comedy, You want to see it live, go ahead and tell your friends. They'll be doing shows on Saturday as well if you want to get tickets for that. Support live comedy wherever you are. If you hear me talking about live comedy, go see it. Where is it in your town? Are they doing some live comedy shows? I feel safe. I have a needle on my arm. I want to go out and see something. Go give it a Google if it's a shorter drive for you. John Clark, thank you so much for your support and patience with all the waiting and all the different things I put you through. If they want to follow you on the Twitter machine, where do they go?
John R. Clark 12.
That's right. You can follow me on Twitter at Kev Kellam, at KEVKELLAM. And of course, if you haven't done it already, go ahead and subscribe to the podcast. I know we hammer. I almost hit the microphone. Hammer into you all of this stuff. But we produce a lot of audio. We just dropped this Britt Baker interview, and you get a lot of insight into her dental career, even if you just watch this match tonight. We have a 49-minute interview with Eric Bischoff. We're doing an entire show about rewriting what you know of WCW. So, John, you know this. We're giving away a lot of good stuff people should pay for, but we're giving it away. At some point, I'm like, when do we reel this back and put it behind the paywall? But we're not doing it yet. Maybe we do it in the future. I'm not saying we are. But if you like the stuff that I'm talking about, start listening to it now. Just start listening to it now before we say, like, oh, someone from on high says, don't do that anymore. You guys got to start recording those and keeping them behind over here. We're giving it to you. So go ahead and check it out. We have all the episodes of WCW rewritten. I'll be on it tomorrow afternoon about that as well. We'll do a live stream of it. But if you want to listen to it on demand, go ahead and get it through the podcast as well. Spotify, Apple, all the different podcast apps that you listen to something on. We're on it. All right. Thank you guys so much. Hope you're well. Stay safe. All right. Cover up your booger factory. All right. John Clark and I will be talking on Sunday after Fastlane. All right. Fastlane. All right. Don't get a DUI. Stay home. All right. Like me. Drink your old Irving Brewing Beezers. Okay. All right. Stay home. Don't get a DUI. But you can still ride in the fast lane if you get a Lyft or an Uber or you have a friend drive you. And when you're doing all those things, John, what are you also supposed to do?
You're supposed to enjoy all of the wrestling.
You're supposed to enjoy all the wrestling.
All of it.
All of it, especially with the WrestleMania pre-sale tickets going on sale tomorrow. How do you feel, John?
Ask me later.
You've been following the show. That was your payoff. Oh boy, John, I want you to be at WrestleMania so much. I wanted you to be at WrestleMania more than anyone I know, and I include myself. All right, enjoy wrestling, everybody.